Welcome back, everybody. Hey, everybody, how are we doing today? I'm happy to be back to doing live streams. Back to my tip. If you guys are familiar, I did live streams a little bit a while back, but I've been doing it lately weekly. At least I've been trying to every Thursday around 6 p.m. Gives people time to wind down, maybe get a cold one. And we get to cover what's been happening in the camera world and maybe learn some things as well. Um, yeah, we got some things to talk about with Arri. A lot of things to talk about with Arri. A lot of this we're going to be talking about in regards to Arri, but it's also what does this mean? What are signs and what's the future of Arri? But also, I am trying out some new audio, so I'd be very interested to see how do I sound. So if I sound good, I'm going to be going into these guys, which is the new Lark Max 2s from Hollyland, and give my first impressions. So that's going to be sort of the general discussion of today. Apologies for not any live stream last week, but me and my wife went out of town. We celebrated 11 years married together. So we went to Ocean City, Maryland, and just spent most of the weekend together. So that's essentially why Thursday was the day we left. So that's why there wasn't any live stream last week. But we are back in it today, and we got some people good. We got Carlos in the chat, early gang in the house. Exactly. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you so much for joining me, man. We got Fritz here. Fritz, hey, what's up, man? How's it going? So at least I got a couple people talking this time. So hopefully these things pick up. So Carlos says it sounds good. Great, because yeah, I got some things. A lot of good things. A couple not so good things about the Lark Max 2s, but I'll get into that. Again, it's a first impressions. I'm going to make a whole video about this, but also I'm going to compare them to the Rode Wireless Pro in another video. But I'm going to just give you my initial thoughts with them. So is camera still sky high due to tariffs? They are pretty high. They are still cameras are still pretty high. It's still going on. There's still tariff tax on cameras. At least the camera I'm waiting for, which is the Pixis 12K, which we were told it was going to be in July. And in Blackmagic usual style, we're still waiting after July has passed. But thank you, Fritz, and thank you, Carlos, and anybody else that's going to be joining the live stream. I look forward to it. But let's not waste any of your time. Let's get into the news that broke today, or at least a lot of news outlets and new camera news outlets are reporting. And there's potentially the fact that Arri Group may be in talks of selling the company, which comes surprise. In fact, I got a news article I can pull up. This is from News Shooter, and shout outs to News Shooters and Matthew Allard as well. So yeah, Arri Group exploring sales options. So this is the article. According to a report from Bloomberg, the Arri Group is exploring sales options. Now, News Shooters is also saying they can't independently verify this claim, and Bloomberg's article states that there are exploring options that include a full or partial sale of the business, according to people familiar with the matter. It goes on to sort of that they're working with a consultancy partnership. So, yeah, which is interesting. The timing of this is very interesting, especially given the fact that they just released the Alexa 35 Extreme, which that's another thing we're going to be talking about today. So yeah, that's essentially a lot of things that there's reports. Now, Arri hasn't officially, as far as I know, Arri hasn't officially confirmed that they are selling. But there is basically talks, and there's reports that are coming out that they are exploring the option. So there's nothing done yet, but the fact that that's even being discussed is a matter to be is a matter of conversation, especially given the fact that how long the Arri Group is been in one family. I mean, I think it was 2017, and we'll come back to the article. It states, I think, yeah, in 2017, the Arri Group celebrated its 100th birthday. And so 8 years ago, it celebrated 100 years of being in one family. And now it's potentially being sold. They've already sort of started selling things off. There was reports, if you guys don't know, there was reports a while ago, and it's official now, but Arri sold off its lighting division to another company. So the lighting portion of Arri is under new management, and this is now, it looks like the camera portion is potentially being sold off, if not the whole company. So, first of all, I guess I'll talk about, do I believe this is true? Yes, I do believe. Well, okay, let me say this. I believe that they are definitely talking or considering the option to sell. And the reason why I believe it is because there is things that I also know about that I've been trying to explore to see if this has been publicly stated somewhere else. Because I talked to people who close to the situation, and not this situation. Let me be clear. I need to be very, very clear what I say. But I know people that were a part of the Arri team, and very, very recently they're no longer a part of the Arri team. But what I've been heard is that a good portion, or at least some portion of Arri's camera team has been let go. I don't know the portion size of it, but I do know that at least, and I don't know if it's globally, but I do know the U.S., there's a portion of the U.S. camera team that has been recently let go. In fact, it was close to around the time of the announcement of the Alexa 35 Extreme that this team was let go, or at least a portion. I want to be very clear of my words, but I'm aware of that. So to me, this gives a clear sign that Arri is not doing well. Again, a company that has been in a single family for over a century, that is slowly selling off the different divisions of it, and now is laying off parts of its labor force. And then I'm not just talking about like low rank. I'm talking about like high managerial. I'm talking about managerial positions as well. And the fact that this report comes out is like, this is a sign of the times, is that, this is a sign of the times that we're, again, I don't know what this is going to be for everybody. Maybe everybody here may not feel this way. And if you guys are, everybody that's doing well, I'm happy for you, and I continue for the success. But this is something that is not just, this is just another sign of what I've seen. And by the way, if you guys are seeing the roughness in your areas, I would love to know how it is. I will just say here in the Philly area, the New York, I'm not fully into the New York market, but I know the Philly, Jersey market, it's been a very rough year. We've been managing to survive because we've been cutting our fats when we've been doing, at least my company has. And I'm just lucky I can still be able to have means to do it. And in fact, I've got a documentary shoot near the end of this month. I actually just did a location scouting for that shoot today. So I'm just happy and blessed that I'm still able to do. But I know there's a lot of people that I know and people that had companies that have closed their business. There's and it's getting rough. So, but I would definitely want to know what you want to do. If how's it going for you guys? Because this is something that I want to see what solutions that maybe we as a community can come together and see what we can do to help each other stay afloat and endure during this process. But yeah, like I said, this is a sign of the times, and it's a bit rough. Let's go to the comments before I jump right into it. Carlos says the Arri tax is very, very real. Yes, yeah, my friend. It's, I mean, the Arri tax is yes, the Arri tax is real, and I, I found it interesting when the Enzo lenses came out, and the thing that they really push is like the thing that we want to push is that not only they're lighter, but these are affordable options, and and it's like they're 85,000 a piece. They're like what, or maybe there's like a five. No, there's a 5 set for 85,000. But hey, these are affordable options now. So, yeah, that Arri tax is real. DM Colorist, man, thank you for joining the channel, man. I appreciate it. Really, thank you for joining, man. So Carlos asked an interesting question that actually is going to go into our probably next time. But what if Jared Land were to buy into Arri? Yeah, Jared Land going red and buying into Arri. That would be interesting. And I think that I'm gonna hold off because that's the next topic, Carlos. So just hold on just for a second. But yeah, as DM says, yeah, it is. It's struggling. Yeah, it's pretty much sideways. Ooh. So Panavision US downsized just a few months back. So yeah, that's again. I think that's showing a sign of time. And also, I think this is a sign that America, in terms of narrative film and film production, it's losing a lot of its positions. Because look, more and this is something that me and my business partner we've discussed. We've talked to people that work on major shows, and a lot of these programs, a lot of these shows and projects are moving overseas. They're moving to Europe. They're primarily like the UK, Belgium. A lot of it because the simplest terms is it's not as it's way too expensive to do projects in the United States. It's getting really expensive, and the other countries are more also offering major tax incentives for studios to bring all their projects over there. So yeah, so we're just seeing a really downsize to it. But let's keeping the conversation happening, and let's go and basically let's have that topic that Carlos kind of started. So let me try to get here it is. Let's get this conversation started. And basically, the question that I'm going to ask is, who should buy Arri? That is the question that is that's being asked right now. Who should buy Arri? And I jumped ahead, and that's sort of the thing I want to talk about. I guess the next slide kind of gave it away, but the first thing I want to say is who I believe should not buy Arri. For me, the people that shouldn't buy Arri, or I hope won't buy Arri, is Sony, Apple, Amazon, DJI, there's a couple others, but these four sort of stuck into my mind, and it's nothing personally a knock against them, against these companies. Maybe Amazon, but but it's not a knock against any of these because I mean, there's points to Sony has established itself as given itself its credibility in the industry. Apple has the advanced technology and using Arri sensors. And DJI. There's also for DJI, but the main reason why I'll start with the first three, which is Sony, Apple, and Amazon, is because all three of those are studio and have their own distribution. And for me, I would like Arri to stay as close to what it was, which was a privately, independently owned company that didn't have favoritisms to specific studios or distribution studios. So Apple, Amazon, Sony, while they all have pieces and they could probably maybe build interesting cameras, I also don't want them having not necessarily a monopoly, but having a huge favoritism in terms of distribution. And also these are all publicly traded companies, and there's God benefits to publicly traded companies, but one of the downsides of publicly traded companies is this is no longer a customer facing business. A lot of these companies, they answer to their boards and they answer to their investors. That is their number one priority. That is their fiduciary responsibility. And that's just sort of the system that we set up. So that's the reason for those three. With DJI, it's mainly because of the current political climate, where if DJI was to happen to acquire Arri, there's a good chance Arri will no longer be able to get. We may not get Arri cameras in the United States. So that's the reason why. I'd say for those. Now there are contenders that I think should consider looking at it in terms of a company. I have mine, and I know for some people this is going to create some feelings maybe of who I think may be somebody that should consider it, but one that I think should definitely, if they have, again, these companies definitely need to have the means to buy out Arri. But I think, I don't know their finances, but if they do have the finances, I think personally, my first contender would be Blackmagic Design. I think Blackmagic Design, again, I don't know the situation. I don't know if they're capable of buying Arri, but if they are, and I don't know if any of the members and teams of Blackmagic are going to be watching my stream or watching any of the clips that I have from these live streams. But if you do end up watching, and you have potentially means, I think you should explore the option Blackmagic. I think you should explore the options. Why do I think so? Number one, Blackmagic has already proven with their Ursa City 12K and now with the new Pixis 12K, they've got sensor technology that could rival, maybe not maybe completely overthrow or maybe even go toe-to-toe, but they can come to the table with their sensor technology, with their RGB WW sensors. So, to me, getting Arri raw sensors, getting that dual gain sensor that Arri has based, the technology that Blackmagic has, I think that is the number one thing. For me, it's getting Blackmagic raw in Arri cameras. The potential of having B-raw in a new Arri Alexa camera, and then getting, which goes into my number three, having this unified color pipeline with Arri, and then you got the Blackmagic, and you got Arri's color science. You can work with Blackmagic's color science, and then having a more smoother transition since Blackmagic already owns DaVinci Resolve, which is, I would argue, is the best in the league. I know people still use Premiere, and I get it. I personally think DaVinci Resolve is the best in the league out there now. And so having a great in the league, but most importantly, the color grading process, that's helpful. But the other thing is with Blackmagic, why Blackmagic should do this is that this would give Blackmagic legitimacy in the high end. If they can find a way to incorporate, bring those people in and sort of work together while still keeping the thing that makes Arri, this would give the legitimacy that Blackmagic has been seeking in the high-end film world, that they're starting to slowly grow now. Because Greg Fraser has been shown multiple times using the Ursa City 17K, so they're getting recognitions. There's already, I think, stuff that's on Netflix that's being shot on the Ursa City 12K. So they are getting slowly getting recognition. But getting Arri could really, really solidify that. The last thing for me is Blackmagic's not publicly traded. It's still independently privately owned. So that helps keeps the core of what Arri is, at least for me. So, but I know a lot of people, and I know a couple YouTubers who are out there who may feel some disgust at the idea that Blackmagic would own Arri, who are not necessarily fans of Blackmagic. And I get, and everybody's opinion is their opinion. I know for me, given the fact that Blackmagic is one of the few camera companies that's still independently owned, or a major company that is still independently or privately owned. The fact that it has all this sensor and sensor technology, it has ownership over the best color grading and color working program. I would argue it's the best in a lead program. Again, I think this is definitely something I would love to see Blackmagic, if they can, Blackmagic. However, that's my choice. I will say, I think there is a second company that should seriously consider getting, if they want to buy Arri, I think there's a second contender that really should consider it if they're not in the talks, or if the talks are happening, they should be in the talks, and that is Panasonic. I mean, one of the things that I know a lot of people think that some people, because I've been very critical of Panasonic recently, that I'm maybe some sort of Panasonic hater. But of course, for those of you that have been following my channel for a while, you know that I'm actually a really big fan, and I've been a big advocate of Panasonic. I've been using their cameras, and I love their cameras, but there's a couple things that recently they have done that sort of irked me, and honestly, I felt the marketing of their latest gen S-series cameras as kind of, it's been upsetting to me. But that's a personal thing, and I'm leaving that to the side for now for this conversation. But I've been critical of Panasonic for one specific reason, well, a couple, but a key specific reason was that they got rid of their division, the high-end division cameras. They basically stopped developing their Varicams. So their Varicam Productions has basically ceased to exist. They've basically, ever since the Evo 1 was the last camera, and that came out, 8-9 years ago? That was the last camera that really, along with the Varicam LT, that they've, in terms of high-end cinema cameras that they produce, they haven't produced any of those in close to a decade now. And basically they shut it down and basically transitioned and put all their focus into Lumix. And I've always felt that was the biggest mistake that Panasonic has ever made, because what you just did is you've shut yourself out of creating a evolution or an upgrading path for your customers. You've basically boxed them into Micro Four Thirds or full frame. no APS-C, and they're all mirrorless. If I want to go to try to get something a little bit more professional, a little bit more high-end that deals with industry standards like SDI, proper time code inputs, I don't really have that options with Panasonic. Arri would solve all of that. I've felt they desperately need to revitalize their place in cinema style body cameras. They need to really get folk back into the cinema style market. And Arri would bring that in, similar to how Nikon found their way into the high-end cinema markets by acquisition Red. The other thing is they already have a working relationship with Arri. Now, I still think it's bogus that you got to pay the amount of money you got to pay. At least for me, I would never pay the amount of money to get Arri Log C when I can basically replicate that look myself in like 30 minutes. But that's me. But I'm gonna leave that alone. They have a working relationship with Arri, and I think that could help. They already kind of know that they got a pipeline of at least understanding Arri's color science. The other thing is, can you all imagine Arri in the L mount alliance? Like that's the thing. Arri hasn't really been in the mirrorless mount market, and there's things that maybe that Panasonic could be that carrier of having Arri in the L mount alliance would really, really help. The only con for me is the fact that Panasonic is a publicly owned traded company, so there's trade-offs right there. So, those are my thoughts on, the two major companies that I think consider, and the ones why I shouldn't consider that. So let's check out the comments and see what we have here. So Carlos says we have to pivot hard to keep up the revenue consistency. Yeah, that's essentially what we did. That's essentially what we did, Carlos. We really pivoted from trying to do more narrative, and even a lot of our corporate stuff. We've pivoted to do more social media content, and that's really has helped us kept us afloat, as well as sort of more post production. But I found that that's the way that we've been willing, and we've been able to keep afloat. Barely. I'll be honest, barely. But we're just above the water. We're just above water. So I think I'll say this. I think if you aren't seriously finding ways to get yourself into content creation or help getting yourself a social media presence, we're maybe getting to a point in terms of just production life where that would be a big disservice. I'm not saying we're fully there yet, but that may be it. Carlos says you scrap virtual production. You scrap virtual productions and opted for hybrid virtual class sound studio instead. Good here. So DM Colorist says, been dry for me for over a year. Just a few small projects that have managed to keep me going. Got 2 on the horizon over the next 6 to 8 months. That's all. Yeah. So for me, like I said, the company, we've sort of pivoted towards social media and post-production work. That's kept us afloat. Me personally, I've also pivoted to doing a lot more freelancings, and particularly in weddings. And that like the wedding during June, like May, June, July, that the work I got there kept me afloat and kept me going along. But things are sort of dying down as well. Says, I joked with my friend that Kodak should buy the camera division and push some serious. Hey, look, the way everybody's selling off, you know what? That may actually come true, man. That may actually come true. So Carlos, Canon has always tried to map their map their production. Canon has always tried to map their production camera profiles to supplement Arri. Yeah, I mean, Canon's another potential option. I think, I just don't know what Canon would do with Arri. I really don't know what Canon could do. I mean, it would be cool, but I just don't. And also, for some reason, maybe I would love to hear what your thought, Carlos. I just don't see acquiring Arri fitting Canon's personality, if that makes sense. Well, if that makes any sense, maybe they're like, hey, if you get an Arri camera, because I know at least in the narrative world, Canon has always struggled. So acquiring Arri could, if they really were interested in that. But I think they're doing a solid in the documentary world, and honestly, documentary is one of the few areas that still is getting some success and it's still going, but it's way, 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 way smaller budgets. But at least it's still viable versus like narrative films and television. It's just like it's drying up like crazy. Totally agree with you. Like Sony doesn't need Arri. They're already in the top two. I totally 100%, man. Arri, Sony doesn't need it, but Sony would have the capital, definitely have the capital if there was to. It feels like DJI is turning their back on the U.S. market. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this, again, the trade war. I think this all boils down to the trade war with China and the U.S. But I also think it didn't help that we also put an effort to ban their drones. And I think we did ban their drones. I think the law passed that we banned the drones or really limited the use of DJI drones. So that didn't help us with our relationships with DJI. So if they want to exit the U.S. market, I totally can understand that. So Dennis, hey man, what's up, man? Thanks for joining. Dennis says Sony is out indeed. Venice is doing well. Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. Yep, yeah, it's DM Carlos. Yep. So Carlos says, I've taken on projects with Audi, Porsche, Casper. We had to use Arri because it is a German company. So I'm curious, Carlos. Carlos, because maybe this is because I got a lot to get through, so I'm gonna try to speed through it. But if you're still here, Carlos, if another company, let's say Blackmagic or Panasonic, like a Japanese company like Panasonic or Canon, were to acquisition Arri, like how would that affect your position, your work with audio? I would just assume you would just go full red on it, knowing you, man. Let's see here. So DM McCullough, I don't think you go to R&D a better sensor than the Alexa 35s. Pushing pixels is not going to help it be better. Where would Arri go from here? The A35 ALF 265 is one of a trio of cameras. I agree. Again, any camera company that, if someone was to acquire Arri, or if Arri just keeps to itself, I don't expect them to really like pump out serious resolutions, because it clearly the process has clearly worked, and whatever would happen in Arri's future, it's proven to work, and I don't think anybody's going to break what isn't fixed. So Flash. Hey, Flash, thanks, man. Thanks for joining. Blackmagic Design buying Arri would be wild. Yes, it would. But look, our Blackmagic, it's not like Blackmagic hasn't acquired major brands. I mean, Blackmagic, one of the biggest acquisitions they made was they bought DaVinci Resolve, which was just this extremely expensive color grading program, and they transformed it into a full-on leading NLE program. And they acquisition Fairlight. So they have acquisitions things before. So it wouldn't surprise me if somehow they acquisition Arri again if they have it. Carlos says if Blackmagic would own Arri, they would instantly become the no budget brand. That is a question. That's a good question. That's an interesting comment, Carlos. What do you guys think? Do you think if Blackmagic was to buy Arri, would they become the not budget brand, or basically they wouldn't be the industry wrecker? Because I think that's sort of the thing that Blackmagic has been historically known for, regardless of the problems that they've had and QCs that they may had. One of the things from the get-go, once Blackmagic started developing cameras, was that they were an industry shaker. Would they lose that if they were to get Arri? Me personally, I don't think so. I think Blackmagic has so many of its roots and has built so much of its support and the people in the following, which to a point it's almost a cult. Let's just be honest. The Blackmagic fandom it's almost a cult at this point. I mean, they made it off of by giving people access to things that wasn't available. And it was always available to those in the room. And that is something that I've heard Grant Petty say and continue to say, that that's his bottom line. And look, Grant Petty has been a man of his word. He's been doing that, and it doesn't seem like he would stop. So my thing is, as long as Grant Petty is the owner and the CEO of Blackmagic, I don't think they're not going to. I don't think they'll be the not. They're not going to be the budget brand. I think Blackmagic Design will still have their budget cameras. What I think will happen is that they're going to merge more stuff into their higher end, and they'll start creating more higher end stuff, and eventually if they were to acquire Arri, bring an Arri in, and they may even do it to where they would bring cost into a more, I'm going to use very, very, very big air quotes, more accessible price category. And what I mean that is like something like between the $30,000-$50,000 price range. But that was something that no one would ever consider an Arri to do, at least new one. You can get an old one for like $5,000, $6,000, yes. But I don't think anybody actually ever considered doing that. So, but yeah, that was an interesting thing. Yeah. So DM Color Sass. But what would Blackmagic be buying? They already are competitive. The name, Arri wouldn't help them by just having the name. Nikon's purchase of Red didn't help them out so far. Okay, great question, man. So to me, there's two things that I think it would help Blackmagic. One is the access to Arri camera sensor technology. Like if they were to buy like a full buy, like completely buy and own every piece of the IP, the sensor technology alone would help them. And it would get them in position, it would put them in position that would really push the boundaries of what camera technology do, especially given the fact that they already own one of the best color pipeline workflow programs. So the sensor technology is number one. Yes, the name of Red hasn't necessarily helped Nikon, but Nikon, let's be honest, Nikon really hasn't done anything with Red yet. So if Blackmagic was just to buy Arri and didn't really do anything with Red, yes, it won't help with it. But I do think that if they incorporate a lot of Arri's technology into their products and also put more of the premium stuff into their products, I think it would create a sense of comfortability by having that technology, because a lot of cinematographers, a lot of filmmakers, a lot of directors, they're already so used to working with that. So those are the two reasons. Yes, I do. Yes, I will. Yes, that's fair point, man. Fair point. About Blackmagic, I will say they are significantly better than where they were when they first started, but they still have a lot to grow, and that's a very, very fair point. Uh, so Carlos, and I think Carlos agrees with me. The name Arri would get them instantly into live broadcasts and studios day one. So I agree with that. Let's see here. So Dennis says usually cost is offset to the customer's need. All right. Flash says, I think Ari's reliability, build quality married with Blackmagic's efficiency value for money would be immense, especially if they could transfer build quality across the entire entry market product. That is the to me the thing that would help Blackmagic. If they can find a way, again, it all depends on the cost, but if they can find if they have access to all that technology and they have all the rights to the works, this could help them with their quality and having that, again, that notoriety that Arri has. I think it would immensely help Blackmagic. So I think you hit the nail on the head, man. So I'm gonna try to skip through because I want to catch up to other things. So again, so Dennis says he would like either DJI, Blackmagic, or Panasonic to buy. The last two, yes, I think those two companies. I think it would be the more ideal. I've given my reason for DJI because DJI appears to be pulling out of the U.S. market. So if DJI was to acquire Arri, I don't think that would be helpful to us Americans. And yes, call me selfish, fair, that's fine. But that's my main reservation with DJI. And also, uh, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Color says, I think Panasonic would be a top contender to buy Arri, but they haven't had a cinema side of Panasonic for years. And that's the main reason why I think if this thing, again, if what's happening with Arri is real, I truly believe that they should be on the phones trying to see if they can work out a deal with Arri to acquire it, because I'll be honest, of all of the companies, Panasonic to me would be the company that would need this the most. Blackmagic will still be fine, but I think Panasonic, again, I've talked about, I made my point. Panasonic has really, to me, sort of, shot themselves in the foot by essentially just killing off that higher end or getting a true professional cinema camera and focusing squarely on mirrorless. So I think they definitely should be trying to make the conversation. So he says, when Lumix added Arri Log C into their cameras, the writing was on the wall for Arri. I don't know. I don't agree with that. I do not agree with that at all. I'm gonna be honest with you, with colors. Mainly because anybody that's looking at an Arri is not going to look at a Lumix camera. Like, legitimately, I don't see it, because there's too many things that come with an Arri camera that are industry standard that are just blatantly missing in the Lumix line of cameras. All of them. Again, no SDI. Not only there's no SDI, there's not multiple video outsource. That's just a flat out no for a lot of production companies. The newer S cameras, they don't have proper time code. Yes, they got that Bluetooth time code, but I'm sorry, I don't know any. I'll be honest, I don't know any true location sound person that's going to trust trust Bluetooth connectivity compared to something like an analog connection to a tentacle sync. It's still wireless. Technically, it's still wireless, but it's something that it's just been done. And the fact that it's such a proprietary thing with Atomos, I don't see it flying. I just don't see these cameras. Can they be put on professional cinema cameras? Of course they can. I'm not denying that. But there's just certain things that productions are just used to. I just can't see them just saying the writing was on the wall. There's no way in the world that paying, what was it, $160 for something, again, for something that you could literally do for 30 minutes if you spent the time in DaVinci Resolve and you can basically create your own. I don't see, I couldn't, I disagree with you quite a bit. All right, I still got a lot to go through. So let me try to see if I can, marketing, sell, and when you're done, keep selling. So it is what it is. Let's see here. Evil One was Flash Trivia said Evil One was September 2017. So that's 8 years ago. Okay, so 8 years ago. Yeah, I was close. I thought so. It was around that time. So, yeah. Carlos says, dude, I'm with you. Look, I'm not. I know I'm not as old as you, man. But I remember working AV and working AV in some prominent companies, or I'll say organizations. And Panasonics were just workflows, the ENG's workflows all across the board. So you're not the only one, man. So yeah, and Vericam LT was 2016. Yeah, so exactly. So Dennis says Arri could also help with processing. I mean, the S1H was fantastic in regard, but recent Panasonic cameras seem to target Fuji customers, and that's the case. I agree with that, man. Totally 100%. So it looks like you guys are it looks like you guys are having conversations there. So Flash asks, how does the chat view Panasonic's color science versus ours? If Panasonic brought out Arri, do they keep both color science across the range or go with Arri's color science? I think they'll keep Flash. I think they'll keep the both. And honestly, again, everybody can answer to them to your own purposes. I don't care for color science anymore because I'm going to break the color science anyway and basically create whatever I want, or create the look that the director wants if I'm being a colorist. So color science is no longer, to me, I think color science is not really a legitimate argument if you are someone that is, at least for me, for someone who is, I hit the mic, sorry. If for someone like me who color grades, not only just for a living, but just color grades for the fun of it because I love color grading, I don't care for the color science of any camera anymore. I think all these camera companies have gotten good enough, their color science has gotten good enough that you can make them work. And if you want, you can completely transform and completely change the entire look. And there's enough plugins, DCTLs, and even DaVinci Resolve in its native form can get you what you want with its film look. So, and also the color management pipeline of DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. The color science doesn't matter anymore. My 2 cents. So that's mine. Let's see here. Okay, still color. Blackmagic bought Resolve and Fusion, both were 30,000K plus programs before purchase. Like I said, they were exactly. They were super expensive. Now you can essentially, if you buy a Blackmagic camera, you get them for free. Well, for now, they've hinted that this may change. Robert, hey, what's going on, man? Thank you for joining the chat. Blackmagic Design will always make budget cameras. They have a hard time trying to sell more expensive cameras. I agree with Carlos that they would not lower Arri prices. Yeah, yeah, I think they would. Just not. I just don't think they would push it into the sub $10,000. I think they would push. They would bring Arri cameras down to Red Raptor prices. Red Raptor prices. Sony Venice prices. That's me. But obviously, please feel free to disagree with me. So I think I'm finally catching up. Robert says Panasonic makes the most sense, but I wouldn't bet on it. Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, again, they make the most sense, so it would be interesting to see. I hope, I think I think if they don't even entertain the idea, like if this story is fine, like if Arri is really truly exploring the options of somebody purchasing the company, if Panasonic is not even entertaining it, like, then I don't know if I could trust them as a company, because it would be a foolish thing not to at least not consider. Again, if you have the means to do it, if Panasonic has the means to do it, and if they don't consider it, it would be one of the most foolish things they've ever did. Not that they are looking to replace Arri, but when a company starts selling off proprietary software, etc., they signal they are looking for revenue-generating opportunities to prop their books up. Yeah. So, totally agree. Totally agree with that. Not too much. This right here, what Dennis Schmitz is talking about, that's the sauce. That's the sauce. I'm just going to say, that's the sauce. I actually have a video up right now going over DRTs. I go into talking about OpenDRT, but I've also done one that talks a little more. Well, I haven't really talked about JP2499. I've been playing around with that a lot more. But I think, yes, what he's saying, or the first part and OpenDRT. Again, see my video on DRTs to see what I'm talking about. So Robert says Arri log does not bring Arri color science to Lumix. You need a LUT for that, and you don't do the same thing. And you can do the same thing with vlog. Thank you. Exactly. That to me, that's yeah. Like, to me, it doesn't matter exactly. At the end of the day, you're transforming. At the end of the day, you're transforming a log look, converting it into a Rec 79, and you're just and in between is just the biases of whatever the company believes is the most pleasing, and it's up to you to agree or disagree with that biases, but it's still a bias. And at the end of the day, you can always change the bias. If you know what you're doing, and it really isn't hard to do now. Like Blackmagic design. Speaking of Blackmagic design made it so easy with DaVinci Resolve that you can change the biases of whatever company you have if you want something different, and it's really, really easy to do. So Carlos says 100% color science isn't really the standard. It's all about how much the sensor can capture for us to manipulate. That is ultimately the thing, and this leads to also my thing of why I also say the writing was on the wall. I disagree with the statement that the writing was on the wall for Arri, because Arri gave Vlog C3 to Panasonic, or gave access to it. Is before the fact that a lot of Lumix's compression or codec options really, really suffers under heavy grading, and for me, like, I know OpenGate is one of the big talking points. The 3x2 options are big talking points for Lumix. The fact that they're only 10-bit 420 is a huge negative for me and a big setback, for me at least, because of the type of grading that I do. That's just not enough. That's just not enough data for me to use it that I feel comfortable delivering to my clients. But Colors is right. I like this comment. The car market is so even right now. You get 13 stops of dynamic range, resolution, 60 frames per second. Not much more you could do in the camera space. Large format is really the next frontier, but Blackmagic design already gaining ground. Yeah, at this point, honestly, I don't even think it's large format. I think large format, yeah, there's an argument to be made for large format in terms of the new frontier. But really, to me, this is now a market of lenses. I think really what's going to set things off is the ecosystems and how workflows go, and that's really the difference. I've been talking. I know people and a lot of YouTubers are still trying to find ways to hype people up about latest and greatest cameras, and for me, I saw the writing on the wall years ago, maybe 2 years ago, where I was just like, there really isn't any difference between these cameras anymore. It's really just about the workflow and just understand and what workflow works best for you. And that's really it. That's really the difference. A lot of these cameras are not going to really be the difference makers. What's really going to be the difference makers is the ecosystem that the camera allows. So the lenses, it's going to be the workflow in terms of working with different means, whether it's tripods, stabilizers, gimbals, handheld, or working with a large crew with video I/O ports, time code syncing. I guess you could throw it built into these. Like really, it's workflow. Workflow is going to be the difference maker between all of this. Exactly. It's so easy to get. It's so easy to get a great looking image these days. Yo, shots fired. Yo, what's wrong with DYG? Shots fired though. Mm-hmm. Brandon, sorry man, I finally got down to you, man, and I finally caught up. Yeah, thank you, Brandon. Thank you for joining, man. What up? Glad to hear. Thanks for joining. Yeah. So, then it says Arri Lock 3 on Lumix felt a bit like THX logo on Logitech speakers to me. Okay. All right. Yo, that's it. All right. But yeah, this is but yeah, that's all. That's the next awesome thing, which I guess it's a good time to but yeah, we'll see what Arri does. And I guess this will be a good time to sort of look into the Alexa 35 Extreme, which I know just came out just a little bit ago. We got clips from here with some CVP. I will say this. I find it interesting of like the upgrade path that they're definitely making it accessible, but not. But they find ways to get accessible, but not doing it to where everybody gets. But those that have been part of the Arri ecosystem, getting a relatively good upgrade path. So if you had an Arri Alexa 35 before, you could upgrade. They're giving you upgrades similar to how like Red does. Like all the Red users, Brandon, Carlos that are here, you guys know that there's it's cool that you got an upgrade path that if you had an Alexa 35, if you were a big baller, a real big baller and that got the Alexa 35, you could upgrade without taking as much of a hit as you did when you first bought the Alexa 65. So that's cool. And it is cool that they're really cranking out the resolutions and frame rate options. And look, I think this is going to open some doors. Again, for the few jobs that are still here in the United States, that you got a project, you can do a narrator work, or maybe you're doing a commercial where you need these high frame rates. This is going to be a really, really cool option. But I think a lot of people are, and I think this is something that they'll have things like that may be more affordable, like the Ursa Cine 12K just can't do. Like it can't do those 600 frames a second, but it's also, you take a serious cap to uh, to dynamic range. Like you lose, it's like it drops to like 11 stops. But honestly, if you're shooting at 600 frames a second, unless you are shooting in like in a really high dynamic range, at that higher frame rate, you're going to need a lot of light anyway to put the sensor in. You're going to need a lot of light regardless. So whatever light that may be clipping up there, it's not really going to make a difference because if you're shooting like I think the highest is like 600 frames a second. At that frame rate, you're already losing a lot of light. So you're going to need light like regardless. But it is interesting that Arri doing this again. I find it interesting that they did this roughly around the time that they let some of their camera people go, that they announced this camera. But I think it's cool. I think it's going to be fairly popular. Again, we need to see what's going to happen with Arri. If the things about them looking to sell is true. Again, it's not official yet, but we're going to see. We're going to see what happens with the future of Arri. So, and I guess this would be a good time to talk about my last thing with Hollyland, and that is of course the guys right here, which is the Lark Max 2s. So I recently just got these guys. This is the pouch that comes with it. So I got the ultimate one. So it comes with the earphones, comes with the case that has both two receivers. I got the 2 receiver pack, so it has the 2 receivers, the 2 transmitters. Sorry, the 2 transmitter pack. So it has 2 transmitters. It has a main cam. It has a camera receiver, but there also is a smartphone receiver. And what I have discovered is that smartphone receiver actually works with the USB-C port of the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. So if you have an Osmo Pocket 3 and you put in either that extended battery or you put the basic one that comes with it, the base one, if you plug that in and turn the camera on, it will activate the receiver and it will send the audio that you have from the receiver, from the transmitters to that receiver. Now, if you're wondering why in the world would I do that if you got like the creative combo for the Osmo Pocket and you got the mic 2, and fair, and that's true. It would be easier, but quite frankly, I guess this goes into my first impressions. The Hollyland Mark II, the Hollyland Max 2s, these guys smoke the DJI Mark 2s. They smoke them. First of all, I'm going to be real. I don't like the DJI Mark 2s. I'm just being completely honest. I do not like the quality of audio sound. I've been around too many location sound people, and one of my good friends is a location sound guy and has really helped me put my ears to hearing sound differences. And I guess knocked me. I can't stand the DJI Mic 2s. I think they're not that good quality. I know a lot of YouTubers stand by them, and I totally understand that. But for me, I don't like them. And that's just me personally with them. But even said that, the quality, you guys, first of all, you've been hearing the Lark Max 2s this entire stream. I've had the Lark Max 2s, which been just the transmitter. I'm trying not to touch it so it rubs up and everything. But the transmitter's just been right here, and the receiver's been plugged into my Sony FX3. I don't have the accessory. So the accessory doesn't come with that piece that attaches to Sony cameras that lets you wirelessly connect. That doesn't come with the Ultimate Kit. That's a separate purchase, but it's only $40. So, but just keep in mind that doesn't. I was blown away by the sound quality. I think the sound quality is really, really good on this. And I love the way this is designed, this transmitter is designed, and that's one of the big things. I like the fact that it has a place that's where did I put it? I think I brought it downstairs or something. But the transmitter has a piece that opens up and then allows you to slide in and then push it down, put the clip holder down so it could sit something like this where it's not really noticeable. So it's not really noticeable, especially with something like me that's wearing black. It's not noticeable, and it makes it so much simpler. And especially for someone, if any of you guys do weddings, trying to put this on a groom is way easier. Put this on a groom, hide it behind a side, way easier than trying to lob it up. But if you're feeling froggy and you want to lob, they do. The ultimate kit does come with 2 lavaliers in here, which you see in here, and it comes with these adapters that allows you to put the transmitter on. Now, my first gripe with this set is that the 3.5 here, that I don't know if you can see it, but this 3.5 doesn't have a lock-in. It's not a lock-in 3.5. That annoys me because a lot of my lavs that I use professionally, they're lock-in 3.5s because it's just industry standard. I really wish. Again, I understand they keep it affordable, and given the price for even the ultimate kit, which is like $270, I get it. But still, if you're going to give me a 3.5, give me a lock-in one, because that's what Rode did. And then it comes with just a bunch of other cables as well as windshields that can cover here and magnets. My big disappointment, I'll be honest with you guys, my biggest disappointment is actually the earplugs, because this was the thing that I was really excited for. So you can take these out and basically put these to your ear, and what's cool is that they actually say what side. It's like this says left, so you can put these in here and you can attach it to your ear, and it's actually really good at like attaching to the ear, as you can see right here. But the quality that comes out of these earphones is garbage. It comes off very distorted. Even when I put it in here and push it closer, it sounds very, very distorted. And I'm in line of sight of the receiver and the transmitter is right here. I'm in line of sight of the receiver, but it sounds like tin canny. It sounds tin canny. It sounds distorted and tin canny. And so I think my first impressions, at least right now, I haven't done a full sound quality test against the Rode, but first impression says if you're looking to maybe get the ultimate kit set, the main thing to get it is either get the 2 receiver kit, so if you need to plug it to your phone, or the Osmo Pocket 3, you can. And also to get the lavaliers, because these lavaliers will work well, and the lavaliers are actually, they do sound great. So that's the main reason. But if your reason for getting the ultimate kit is these, you will be disappointed. They're great. This is great in terms of just knowing your receiver is collecting sound. But outside of that, honestly, I don't think I'll ever use it. It's just a good way to check to see if your sound is there. So let's go to the comment sections and see what we have here. So I see you guys are talking. I see how you're talking about going over DaVinci Wide Gamut and color space workflows. I love it. As a colorist, I love hearing the conversations. Cool. So Dennis says, by the way, JP2049 supports APO linear and Arri log CP3 inputs as well. That is very true, and I love it for that. So if if you're in a workflow where that's sort of the workflow you like, hey, you can go that, which is great. Hey, Riz? How's it going? And thank you for joining. But yeah, this is sort of close to the end of what I was sort of talking about. But comments could, I think otherwise I think I'm getting ready to end the stream. But I think this has been we've had a great conversation, and everybody that's been here and been on this channel, thank you guys so much. DM, Dennis, Carlos, Brandon, Robert, Flash, and Riss, like everybody that's been here, thank you guys for joining. This has been a great conversation. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the stream. But like I said, let me go see if there was a major sort of comment that I missed. That any last minute things that I think I want to cover. I want to point this out. This is actually a good comment that Dennis makes. Responding to Flash, both Vlog and Arri Log C4 are super compatible. Color science on the Varicam was fantastic. The newer Lumix cameras lean heavily towards magenta red, even in Arri Log C3. The point I'm trying to make, I want to make here is just, it's like, if you're going to think you're going to get an exact match of the look that's put in an Arri Log C, you're not. Even in Arri Log C3, it's not an exact match. It's closer, but it's not an exact match, and there's multiple videos from multiple cameras doing that. So even when you've paid out that $160, but the point I'm trying to make, and that's the point I guess I would like to make, is that even if you use the exact same lenses, the exact setup, and you use this Arri Log C profile, it still will have some differences. And you're going to have to work those differences out in post. But if you're going to work out those differences in post already, and you're transforming it, and you're not even keeping it in the Arri Log C space, you're transforming it into whatever display, typically Rec 79, what are we doing? Why are we making this? That's why I never understood why this became such a big deal, and why so many YouTubers and so many people were hyping this up, because it's like, this is stuff that we've been doing for decades, and it doesn't make any much differences. So DM Colorist Rose, do you like lavs versus tabletops when doing streams for this? So actually, typically I normally have a boom. So I have a Comica VM30 over here when I'm doing my YouTubes, but because my my color grading space is over here, a lot of times I will turn, especially when I'm doing like a color grading tutorial, I will turn over here to work here. When I do that, all of a sudden I get my sound goes really, really bad. Whereas if I'm having a lav, especially like this, which I really like because it's so simple and easy to solve, I'm talking to you and then I turn this way and I'm still having relatively the same quality. So when I'm doing my tutorials, like in DaVinci Resolve, or when I'm going over something in DaVinci Resolve, I typically do that. I typically have that way. I personally like the boom. I like boom in the mic because it's way more directional and it cancels out a lot more of the noise. Because my basement is still, I haven't soundproofed my basement. It's very open. So the lavalier mic is going to pick up a lot more things. Whereas the Comica VM40 that I have is way more directional, and it really cancels out a lot of the noise that comes from the side. So just so hopefully that helps. So Dennis points, more important is to shoot in either Blackmagic RAW or ProRes RAW on Lumix cameras, since the S5 II, to avoid internal processing, and B-RAW or ProRes RAW. Newer cameras still look fantastic, which is great. And that is the workflow, but and that is definitely great. It's an option to definitely have, and you should definitely consider it. I just know personally, for me, Um, I do not like the idea of turning my entire workflow into a new signal chain that has to go to an external source, which is why I've always been a big proponent of shooting raw internally and why I always will prefer raw internally. Obviously, not every camera will be able to do it. I would love it for every camera to do it. Canon offers it internally. And that's actually another knock against Lumix, I might add. If you really think about it, I'm gonna exclude Fujifilm for right now because because the Eterna's not out yet. The GFX Eterna's not out yet. Actually, no, that's not right. Actually, I keep thinking about. I'm forgetting. I'm thinking the S52X. So actually, I forgot the S1R2 and the S12 have internal ProRes RAW. So yeah, I would say I prefer. So I forget what everything I was about to say. The internal I would be shooting ProRes RAW internally, but unfortunately, DaVinci Resolve does not accept ProRes RAW. So hoping, actually, no, it was Sony. Sony who was the one I was talking about. Sony's the only one that doesn't have an internal RAW codec because Canon has an internal RAW codec, Blackmagic has an internal RAW codec. Now that Nikon's acquired Red, they will have, and also they now have multiple internal RAW codec options. And Panasonic has an internal RAW codec option. Sony's the only one that doesn't have an internal RAW recording option, which Sony should drastically look at because I think that's a nice knock to that. James, this is some of the best live stream audio you've had as an OG fan who remembers the videos from back in the day. Thank you, man. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So I'm glad these are working really well. So guys, if you are thinking about doing a live stream, use the Lark 2s and they'll go for hours. Like I've been here for over an hour now. And I think maybe it's only at 80%. I'm pretty sure at this point it's only been 80%. In fact, I was actually mic'd up when I was doing my location scouting. I had someone shoot some BTS. So I had that. They had my Osmo Pocket, just used the smartphone receiver, and we were able to send it. And yeah, great sounding audio. So also note, I should note for guys that are potentially maybe if you're thinking about using this with the Osmo Pocket 3, be careful when you're using the extended battery one because it will be tied to the extended battery. If that battery dies, the receiver will die too, and all of a sudden it will revert back to the in-camera audio. So I would personally, you can use the extended one if you want. I would personally just use the default bottom handle on the Osmo Pocket, the little one, and then use that to plug it in because then it takes from the Osmo itself and not that. So something to keep in mind. But thank you, man. Thank you. Really do appreciate it. Thank you. I'm glad they saw. So if you guys are looking to maybe have something that's a good streaming, these are only again, the ultimate kit is only $270. And it sounds really good. So, and I'm glad I got a collaboration got a confirmation from Colors too. So yeah, I think this is going to be, just because I move around a lot, I think this is going to be sort of my audio setup. And it's really easy to just put the little one on top of the FX3. The signal to noise ratio of a boom is always better than every log, including the GOAT, COS 11D, and pencil condenser mics are even better than shotgun mics indoors. Absolutely 100%. Like I said, when I'm doing my tutorials, like I said, if I'm just talking directly to the camera, I still prefer this boom mic. And this is good enough for right now for me, especially if I'm doing any of my YouTube videos or my talking head portions. The boom mic is going to be great. I just know I would prefer if I'm doing my tutorials where I'm moving this way and moving away from that, I'm definitely going to keep the lav. Robert says, same goes with Sony users who think S-Cinetone will turn their cameras into a Venice. Yeah, like honestly, you said it 100%. I'll just say that 100%, man. Uh, Nobody on a proper project with a Venice shoots Rec 709. Ditto. Carlos says, I mean, I love the Fujifilm medium format cameras, but I don't know anyone who shoots motion on a Fuji these days. Right. And when I'm talking about the medium formats, Fuji's medium formats. I'm talking specifically about the Eternal. But again, the Eternal's not out yet. No one has actually seen the Eternal, but it is intriguing. But again, yeah, I think there's just not, from a professional standpoint, you need those professional IOs, and mirrorless cameras just can't do it. They just don't fulfill that. I love my Sony FX3, and I love my cinema camera 6K. But if I'm on a set where I have my client, I have a first AC, I have director and a bunch of stuff, I'm shooting on a camera that can give me multiple video outputs, and I'm doing it that way. So totally agree. Sony, thankfully, is getting B-roll soon on the FX3. Yep, supposedly that's coming out in September. But I believe it's only going to be external recording, DM colors. I don't believe it's going to be internal. I would love it if Sony just came out of the womb and surprised, like, hey, we got B-roll internally. If they did that, oh my gosh, yes. But I don't. The vibe I get is Sony's not really interested in doing that. Exactly. Externally. Wishing for internal B-roll on Panasonic cameras for that reason. Exactly. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And this sort of goes into why I don't like shooting externally. The creator was shot on ProRes RAW on the FX3. The workflow was a nightmare, which was stated on some sources. Shooting internally on an FX3 is a no-go, though. The noise reduction is awful. Yeah, yeah. It's definitely hard. But I still love the FX3 at 800. I rarely shoot at 5,000. I rarely shoot at 12,800. Even if I switch to the second native ISO of 12,800, I typically bring the ISO down to 5,000 to get cleaner blacks. So, yeah, totally agree. I honestly thought the internal sample videos they showed, it needed some work. Yeah, like I said, it's still an intriguing camera, but I'm really interested. Yeah. And as Dennis said about the noise reduction, I don't understand. Again, for a cinema camera, and you put it in cinema, I don't understand why Sony just didn't think about just giving us the ability to just turn it off. And I will never come to the understanding of why they didn't do that. So it looks like you guys are talking. Continue talking about Sony. Only because you have Arri on the title, high frame rates that are full of noises on Arri Extreme is a no-go for me. I don't have denoise on my Raptor X. Yeah. Like I said, I understand why Arri did it, and that's fair comment, Carlos. I understand why Arri did it. They wanted to try to keep the vibe up, and like, let's be clear, the Arri LXs, if some people that don't shoot on them a lot, they're actually pretty noisy cameras. Now, that's again if you tolerate the noise. Carlos has said he doesn't think it's a no-go for him. Totally fair. It's regarding the noise and how it works and functions, it varies from different person. I personally like the noise. It adds a little, especially on the Arri cameras. And I like the noise on the Blackmagic cameras to a certain point. For certain cameras to a certain point. Because of the grain that it provides or the texture that it provides, it's really nice. And cleaning it up, and if I wanted to clean it up, it's so easy to clean up the cameras. So, but, and if you don't want it, yeah, just go with a Raptor. If you want just a complete clean image, Raptor. That's the beauty about our market right now, is that we can basically, uh, we've got options, plentiful options. We're spoiled. Uh, let's see. Yeah, if you need if you shoot Arri, you need lighting. You need a lighting budget, 100%. Yeah, yeah. Like if you're paid for if you are using an Arri on a set and you don't have lights, the math ain't math, and you've done something wrong. Start reverse, go back, go back to start. Do not pass go. You've done something wrong. Like your priorities are mixed up. There's no reason if you go in, it's like a budgeting for an Arri, but you don't have budgets for lighting or good lighting. That's on you. So the FX30 and FX2 seem to be compared mostly closely to the FX6 and the FX3, which both use the same 12 megapixel sensor. Yeah, I mean those are because those cameras are the standards. Those are the Goldilocks cameras. So obviously they're going to get compared to those a lot. The FX3, the FX30, and the FX2 are completely different cameras, and they provide different needs. I don't. Again, I don't know why they've made, for a lot of reasons, I don't see the point of an FX2. I think there's so many other cameras that basically does what the FX2 does and has a better functionality. I will say this. If there is one area that I think the FX2 will thrive in, is being a location scout camera, where if you want to go in, get the framing you want, snap the picture, and get all the looks that you could sort of prep and pre-up for your shoot. I think it is going to thrive as a location scout camera. I think, just to be perfectly honest with you, if there's one area I think that in terms of the cinema world that I think the FX2 will thrive in, it's, I think, pre-production, location scouting, and framing and composition and getting creative that way. I'll still talk about episodes. So Carlos says, I like the enhancer to add texture when needed. Yeah, no, the enhancer does a great job. I actually personally have found Film Look Creator. My favorite actually is Film Look Creator. I love the texture and how it does the grain in Film Look Creator a little bit more than the enhancer. However, I use the enhancer more so to give me the film stock and film prints and print looks that I want. And then I use stuff like Film Look Creator to get sort of the more punchy aspects to it, with like bleach bypass, the vignetting, the grain. And the halation. I love the halation so much more in Film Look Creator versus the enhancer. Personally, everybody's different. However, hazy, I don't use bloom on any of them because hazy I use hazy from Film Convert. It just terms of a workflow and just sort of lets you seeing how things work. I love hazy for that blooming effect a lot more. But and then Dennis says, was talking about the processing pipeline, which is so much better on the FX2 and FX30 than either the A74, ATF7S3, X3, etc. Much closer to the FX6, FX9 in that regard. Film box is my favorite in that regard. Okay. All right, cool. Oh, wow. I did not realize that I was over and out. I was 30 minutes over, 30 minutes over before. But yeah, so just so if people film box, if you're looking for film emulations outside of the enhancer, film convert, and the native film creator, you got film box. It's a great tool. I don't actually use it, but it's pretty good. I'm not familiar with Film Labs DM colorist. But I might have to check that out. So definitely check that out. thank you guys for joining me for today. This has been the most productive and active live that I've had in quite some time, and you guys made it so much fun. So really, really appreciate it. And thank you guys for the timing. And as always, until next time, take care, everyone.